the humans of Earth had risen far beyond what anyone in the galaxy had expected. For centuries, they had expanded their influence across countless star systems, their fleets moving from planet to planet, showing that humanity was not to be underestimated. Every battle they fought ended in victory. Every alien civilization they met soon learned to respect or fear the name of Earth. Yet even with so much success, humanity never grew careless. They knew that somewhere in the vast reaches of space, there could be forces as strong, or even stronger, than themselves. Admiral Dejun stood on the bridge of the flagship, staring at the massive map of star systems. The Council on Earth had just given him orders. Lead the fleet to scout a sector where strange signals had been detected. These signals were unlike anything humans had ever recorded. Rumors spoke of a race called the Deathworlders, and the stories that traveled through intercepted messages painted them as brutal and efficient in war. Dejun did not take rumors lightly. Every victory humans had achieved had been through careful strategy, discipline, and courage. The flagship was alive with activity. Hai-Rin, a young but capable captain, moved between the consoles, checking the readiness of the human warships. Su-Min, the chief engineer, inspected the engines and weapon systems, making sure everything was ready for the unknown challenges ahead. Tae-Ho, the strategist, was busy analyzing every piece of data collected so far. The crew knew that this mission might change everything they believed about the galaxy. As the fleet moved forward, the crew could feel the tension. Space was vast, but even here, in the emptiness between stars, danger could appear at any moment. Scouts were sent ahead to detect any unusual activity. For hours, nothing happened, and many began to feel that perhaps the stories of the Deathworlders were exaggerations. But then, on the edge of a star system, the sensors detected movement. At first, it was just faint blips, but soon they formed a pattern. Hundreds of massive warships, each bristling with weapons and shields that humans had never seen before. Dejun's voice cut through the comms, calm but firm. All ships, prepare for potential engagement. Do not underestimate them. Stay in formation and wait for my command. The human fleet adjusted, warships aligning in precise grids. The strategy was simple but effective. Hold strong and analyze the enemy. Hai-Rin's ship led one of the wings, ready to act quickly if an attack came. Su-Min monitored the energy levels of the railguns and shields, making sure every system was prepared for sudden action. It did not take long for the Deathworlders to reveal their power. A sudden wave of energy blasts lit up the darkness of space. Human ships dodged and returned fire, but the enemy shields absorbed much of the damage. The first exchange showed that the Deathworlders were not like any opponents humans had faced before. Their tactics were precise, their attacks coordinated, and their technology advanced in ways that made humans reconsider their confidence. The fleet held, learning and adapting in real time. Dejun made careful decisions, directing the ships to use maneuvers that kept losses minimal while testing the enemy's response. Hai-Rin led a daring move, flanking a smaller group of enemy ships to try and draw attention away from the main fleet. Her ship was hit, but she managed to hold formation, proving the courage and skill of human crews. Back on Earth, the Council watched the live feeds. Many members were impressed, but some grew concerned. They had always believed humans could overcome any opponent, but this encounter showed that victory was no longer guaranteed. Messages were sent to the fleet, advising caution and support. Humanity had to face the fact that there might be civilizations in the galaxy that could challenge them directly. Su-Min noticed something unusual in the energy patterns of the Deathworlder ships. They were not just powerful. They had a rhythm, a pattern that could be analyzed and perhaps exploited. He quickly shared his findings with Tae-Ho, who began developing a plan to test this weakness without risking too many ships. The idea was risky, but human ingenuity had always been one of their greatest strengths. Hours passed in a tense stalemate. Every attack, every defense was a lesson. Humans were learning about the enemy as fast as they could, trying to adapt to strategies they had never seen before. The Deathworlders seemed almost curious about humans, testing them, learning their patterns. Dejun realized that this first contact would determine the future of humanity's position in the galaxy. As the first encounter drew to a close, Both sides withdrew slightly, regrouping and assessing their own losses. For the human fleet, the cost had been smaller than expected, but it was clear that the Deathworlders were a serious threat. Daejun gathered his senior officers for a briefing. "We have met a force unlike any we have faced," he said. "But we are human. We will learn. We will adapt. And we will find a way to win." The fleet continued to hold its position near the edge of the star system. Scouts were sent further, and the engineers continued to upgrade systems based on what had been learned. Taeho worked tirelessly on simulations, trying to predict every possible move the Deathworlders might make. Hyrin prepared her crew for any sudden attack, knowing that in the cold vacuum of space, even the smallest mistake could be deadly. Even as the stars stretched endlessly around them, the humans remained determined. They had fought countless battles, claimed victory after victory, and faced enemies of every kind. But the Deathworlders were different. This was the beginning of a challenge that would test every skill, every strategy, and every ounce of courage they possessed. The night shift on the flagship watched the distant blips of enemy ships. Some whispered about fear, some about excitement. Every human aboard understood the truth. This was not just another battle. It was the first step into a war that could define the future of humanity. The victories of the past were nothing compared to the trials ahead, and every soul aboard the ships knew they were part of a story that would be remembered across the galaxy. In quiet moments, Daejun reflected on how humans had come so far, and how much further they would go. He knew that the key to survival was not just strength or technology, but the human spirit, the courage to face the unknown, the determination to adapt, and the refusal to surrender. The fleet had faced countless opponents before, but nothing like this. And yet, he believed in his people. They would endure. They would fight. And perhaps they would once again show the galaxy why humans were never to be underestimated. The human fleet moved cautiously into the system where the Deathworlder signals had been detected. Every ship was on high alert. Admiral Daejun studied the readings on the bridge of the flagship. Hyrin and Taeho were beside him, ready to give updates and suggestions. Sumin and the engineering crew checked every weapon and shield system for faults. The humans were prepared, but there was a sense of unease. Nothing in their history had prepared them for the Deathworlders. The first contact came without warning. Small scout ships of the Deathworlders emerged from the darkness between stars. They moved swiftly, surrounding human sensor drones and striking them with beams of energy that cut through the drones like paper. The humans responded immediately, their railguns firing in precise bursts. The scouts dodged with surprising speed. The fleet saw for the first time that the Deathworlders were not only powerful but highly intelligent and coordinated. Daejun gave careful commands. Keep formation. Focus on defense but test their patterns. Do not take unnecessary risks. Hyrin led one of the wing groups to probe the enemy line. Her ship weaved through laser fire, taking small hits but managing to stay in formation. Taeho analyzed the enemy movements and started identifying weak points in the pattern of attacks. Sumin adjusted power distribution to boost shields in the areas most likely to be targeted. The Deathworlder scouts were only the beginning. Soon, larger ships appeared on the sensors. Massive warships, each several kilometers long, emerged from the darkness. They were covered in strange energy shields and strange weapons that glowed with a deep purple light. The humans had never seen technology like this. The fleet realized that the real challenge was only starting. The first skirmish was chaotic. Energy blasts lit up the void, lighting the ships in sudden flashes. Human warships fired back, their plasma cannons and missiles striking at the enemy hulls. Some ships were damaged, while others were destroyed outright. The humans had the advantage of experience and quick thinking, but the Deathworlders were fast learners. They adapted quickly, closing gaps and blocking attacks. Every move the humans made was being studied and countered. On board the flagship, Daejun remained calm. We expected a tough fight. Remember, humans adapt. Find their rhythm and use it against them. Hyrin relayed commands to her wing. Her voice was steady, even as her ship took a hit that shook the bridge. She maneuvered through debris and returned fire, keeping her crew focused and determined. Sumin discovered a flaw in one of the enemy shields. By observing the way the Deathworlders' energy patterns fluctuated, he realized that they could be overloaded for a brief moment. He reported this to Tae-ho, who quickly made adjustments to the fleet's attack strategy. Small groups of human ships were tasked to exploit these moments, firing in synchronized bursts to break through the shields. The results were encouraging, though dangerous. Many ships were damaged during the coordinated strikes, but some enemy vessels were destroyed. Meanwhile, communications from Earth warned that the Deathworlders might have more reinforcements hidden in the system. The Council emphasized caution, but Dae-jun was determined. He knew that retreat without understanding the enemy fully would be a mistake. The humans needed to learn more about these warships, their weaknesses, and their tactics. Every skirmish was a lesson, and every lesson was a step closer to survival. The battle continued for hours. The humans learned to anticipate Deathworlder attacks and adjusted their maneuvers. Hyrin led a daring boarding mission onto a smaller enemy vessel. Using small fighter craft, her crew infiltrated the ship and planted charges to disable key systems. The mission was dangerous and many moments brought them close to death, but it succeeded. The humans had proven that courage and strategy could match raw technology. As the skirmish subsided, the Deathworlders withdrew slightly, regrouping. Both sides seemed to understand that this encounter was just the beginning of a larger conflict. Dae-jun called for a temporary formation halt, allowing ships to repair and reload. The engineers, including Sumin, worked tirelessly to fix shields, engines, and weapons. The humans had lost several ships, but the fleet was far from defeated. The crew gathered in smaller groups to discuss what they had learned. Tae-ho showed the simulations of the enemy's attack patterns. By analyzing these movements, the humans could plan more effective strikes in the future. Hyrin trained her pilots to anticipate sudden ambushes and to respond quickly under pressure. Dae-jun emphasized that humanity's strength was not only in technology but in adaptability, bravery, and unity. Even as the humans repaired their fleet, the Deathworlders launched small, targeted attacks. Energy pulses disrupted communications and navigation systems on some ships. It was clear that the enemy was not careless. They understood the humans' tactics and tried to counter them. But each encounter revealed small weaknesses, and humans continued to learn and adapt. Each mistake was analyzed, each success celebrated. The crew felt both fear and excitement. This was a fight unlike any other, and they knew it would define their place in the galaxy. Hours turned into a full day of engagement. The stars around them witnessed the battle, as ships darted through space, leaving streaks of fire and light. Dae-jun worked tirelessly, coordinating attacks and defenses, while Hyrin, Tae-ho, and Sumin ensured that every ship could continue fighting. The humans' determination never faltered, even when facing overwhelming odds. They relied on teamwork, quick thinking, and courage. As night fell over the far side of the system, the humans formed a secure perimeter. They had tested the enemy, learned about their ships and weapons, and survived the first major contact with the Deathworlders. The fleet had endured, but it was clear that the real challenge was still ahead. Dae-jun addressed the senior officers. "We have seen the Deathworlders' strength. They are formidable, but we are human. We will not stop learning, and we will find a way to prevail." The crew knew he was right. Every attack, every tactic, every decision made in the heat of battle had been a lesson. The humans were not perfect, but they were resilient, adaptable, and brave. The fleet's journey had only begun, and each person aboard knew that their victories would no longer come easily. The encounter with the Deathworlders had shown them that survival in this galaxy required more than power. It required courage, intelligence, and unity. As the fleet rested in the quiet of space, the distant silhouette of the Deathworlder ships remained visible on sensors. The humans had learned much, but they also knew that the warships would return, and when they did, the next battle would be even fiercer. Dae-jun and his team spent the night planning, strategizing, and preparing for what was to come. Humanity's first contact with the Deathworlders had been a warning, a challenge, and a lesson. The fleet was ready to face it again, stronger and wiser, knowing that the fight for survival in the galaxy had only begun. The human fleet had spent days in the Deathworlder system, observing, repairing, and preparing for what was sure to be a larger conflict. Admiral Daejun called a meeting with his senior officers on the flagship. Hai-Rin, Tae-ho, and Sumin gathered around the central console, reviewing battle data from the previous encounters. Every loss, every success, and every movement of the enemy fleet had been carefully recorded. The humans were learning quickly, but the Deathworlders were unpredictable, and each moment in this system was dangerous. Daejun's eyes scanned the holographic map. "We know their patterns now to an extent," he said, "but they are powerful. We cannot underestimate them. Our fleet must be ready for a full-scale battle at any moment." Hai-Rin nodded, her hands moving across the control panel as she checked the readiness of the ships under her command. Tae-ho calculated probabilities of enemy maneuvers while Sumin ensured that all weapons and shields were at maximum efficiency. The Deathworlders did not wait long. Early in the morning, sensors detected a massive movement. Hundreds of warships were approaching in a coordinated formation, their energy shields glowing ominously. This was no scouting force. This was the full strength of the Deathworlder Armada. Daejun took a deep breath. "This is it. Prepare for combat. Every ship follows the plan exactly as discussed. Humans will survive because we adapt and fight together." The first volleys of the battle were violent and chaotic. Energy blasts tore through the vacuum of space, illuminating ships with flashes of red, blue, and green. Human warships fired back with railguns, missiles, and plasma cannons, striking at enemy shields and hulls. Some smaller Deathworlder ships were destroyed, but the main fleet held its ground. Their shields absorbed nearly every strike, and their attacks were precise, targeting weak points and supply lines of the humans. Hai-Rin led a squadron through a risky maneuver, diving between enemy lines to attack from an unexpected angle. Her ship was hit by energy fire, shaking violently, but she maintained control. Pilots under her command followed her lead, using human tactics that relied on unpredictability and quick thinking. The Deathworlders seemed momentarily confused by the sudden assault, allowing the humans to gain a small but important advantage. Meanwhile, Tae-ho analyzed the data coming from the battle. He noticed that while the Deathworlders were powerful, their fleet required constant communication and coordination. If the humans could disrupt that communication even briefly, they might create openings. He proposed a plan to Daejun. Small strike teams would target key vessels with precision attacks, creating temporary confusion and opening paths for larger assaults. Daejun approved, knowing the risks but trusting his team's skill. Sumin worked tirelessly to modify human warships, boosting shields and adjusting weapon outputs for quick, high-impact strikes. Engineers moved from ship to ship, repairing hull breaches and recalibrating weapon systems mid-battle. The human fleet was a hive of activity, each crew member working with intense focus. The human spirit of cooperation and ingenuity was on full display, proving that even against overwhelming odds, humanity could endure. The Deathworlders launched a counterattack with unmatched speed and coordination. Energy beams tore through space, targeting human ships with surgical precision. One of Hai-Rin's escort ships was destroyed, leaving survivors in escape pods. She signaled for a rescue while continuing her attack. Every human ship that survived relied not just on technology but on quick thinking and teamwork to evade destruction. Daejun coordinated every move, using the full fleet to shield critical vessels and counter enemy strikes. The battle intensified as the humans identified a larger vulnerability. The core of the Deathworlder warships, which powered their shields and weapons, could be damaged if attacked simultaneously from multiple directions. Daejun ordered a multi-pronged assault. Hai-Rin, along with several other captains, led strike teams to hit these critical points while the main fleet engaged enemy forces to distract them. It was a daring plan and the risks were high, but the potential reward was immense. Fighters darted through space, dodging energy beams and debris. Explosions rocked the vacuum as coordinated human attacks began to tear through the enemy warship's defenses. The Deathworlders responded quickly, but the humans adapted faster. Tae-ho adjusted the strike patterns in real time, directing small teams to exploit gaps in enemy formations. Each successful hit was a small victory, a testament to human strategy and determination. Sumin's engineering teams also played a critical role. Using captured enemy technology from previous skirmishes, they were able to develop brief disruptions to Deathworlder shields, giving human ships the chance to strike. It was dangerous work, requiring precise timing and coordination, but it worked. Several large Deathworlder warships were severely damaged, forcing them to retreat temporarily. The human fleet, despite suffering losses, continued to push forward. Daejun knew that endurance and resilience were key. Humans had survived countless battles in the past through courage, adaptability, and unity. Even in the face of an enemy that seemed almost invincible, those traits allowed them to fight back. The fleet moved as one, each ship supporting another, creating a network of strength that the Deathworlders struggled to break. Hours passed with relentless combat. The void of space was lit with the glow of damaged ships, flares, and energy blasts. Crew members on every human vessel remained focused on their tasks, from piloting and weapon control to repairing shields and monitoring sensors. The human fleet's spirit remained unbroken, even as the enemy's firepower tested every limit. Finally, a significant breakthrough occurred. Using Taeho's calculations and Sumin's modifications, the humans executed a synchronized strike against the central ships of the Deathworlder Armada. Energy beams and missiles struck at the cores, overloading systems and causing massive explosions. The enemy formation broke, scattering some warships and forcing the remaining vessels to retreat temporarily. The human fleet was battered but triumphant. Daejun surveyed the scene from the bridge, proud of his crew and the fleet's resilience. Hye-rin checked on her pilots and survivors from the boarding teams, ensuring everyone was accounted for. Sumin monitored remaining shield levels and prepared for repairs. Taeho studied the enemy's retreat pattern, preparing strategies for the next engagement. The humans had proven that their ingenuity and courage could stand against overwhelming technology. As the fleet regrouped and repaired, Daejun addressed his officers. Today we have faced one of the most formidable fleets in the galaxy and survived. We have learned, we have adapted, and we have struck back. The Deathworlders are powerful, but humanity is stronger in spirit, courage, and unity. We will continue to fight and we will prevail. The stars around them shone silently as the fleet moved forward. The battle had been fierce, but humans had learned crucial lessons about the Deathworlders' strengths and weaknesses. They knew that the war was far from over, but with each engagement, they grew stronger, more adaptable, and more determined. Humanity's victories had not ended. They had only entered a new, more dangerous chapter. The fleet sailed on, ready for whatever challenges the galaxy would bring next. The battle in the Deathworlder system had continued for days, and the human fleet had learned a great deal about their enemy. Admiral Daejun gathered Hye-rin, Taeho, and Sumin on the flagship to discuss a plan that could finally turn the tide. The fleet was battered, but humans were resilient. Their losses had been heavy, but their determination had not wavered. Daejun's voice was steady, yet filled with resolve. We know the Deathworlders' strength and patterns now. We also know they have a central weakness. If we act together, we can strike decisively. Taeho displayed the holographic map of the enemy fleet. Their warships' core systems, which power shields and weapons, are vulnerable when attacked simultaneously. We can create a coordinated strike to target them all at once. The risk is high, but the potential gain is enormous. Hye-rin and Sumin nodded. They understood the stakes. A failure would mean disaster for the entire fleet, but success could end the Deathworlder threat in this system. The human fleet moved into formation, every ship following precise instructions. Pilots trained for weeks had prepared for this exact maneuver. Engineers, led by Sumin, recalibrated weapons and shields to maximize firepower during the strike. Every crew member understood their role. The success of the mission depended on courage, timing, and teamwork. Daejun looked over the fleet and said, "We are human. We adapt, we fight, and we survive. Remember that." The Deathworlders, sensing human activity, began their own preparations. Their warships moved in tight formation, shields glowing with ominous energy. Energy pulses swept through the system as they scanned for signs of human attack. The humans waited patiently, their fleet hidden among asteroids and debris, ready to strike at the precise moment. When the attack began, it was sudden and coordinated. Hyrin led her squadron in a high-speed maneuver, cutting through enemy lines to distract the Deathworlders. At the same time, Taeho directed strike teams to target the core systems of each warship. Missiles and energy blasts converged on vulnerable points, timed to hit simultaneously. Explosions lit the darkness of space as enemy shields faltered and warships began to crumble. Sumin worked frantically to maintain the integrity of human shields, ensuring that the fleet could withstand the enemy's counterattacks. Engineers moved between ships, repairing damage and rerouting power to critical systems. The fleet was a well-oiled machine, each member playing a vital role. Human ingenuity and determination were on full display, proving that even against superior technology, the human spirit could prevail. The Deathworlders responded with ferocity. Their largest warships unleashed torrents of energy, targeting human vessels with precise attacks. Some human ships were damaged or destroyed, but the coordinated strike had already disrupted the enemy formation. Confusion spread among the Deathworlder fleet as multiple ships were struck simultaneously. Explosions rocked the void, and streaks of debris flew in every direction. Hyrin's squadron pressed on, weaving through enemy fire and targeting damaged warships. Her piloting skills and leadership inspired her team to act with courage and precision. Taeho adjusted attack patterns in real time, ensuring that every human strike exploited the enemy's weaknesses. Sumin and his engineering teams worked tirelessly to maintain power and shield stability, keeping the fleet operational under extreme conditions. Amidst the chaos, small teams of humans executed boarding missions on critical enemy warships. Using fighter craft, they infiltrated enemy vessels, sabotaging systems and creating further confusion. The Deathworlders, though advanced and deadly, were unprepared for the ingenuity and daring of human crews. Each successful boarding mission gave the humans a slight advantage, tipping the balance in their favor. The battle raged for hours. Explosions and energy beams lit the darkness of space, creating a scene of overwhelming chaos and destruction. Human ships took damage, but the fleet's strategy and coordination allowed them to survive and counterattack effectively. Daejun coordinated every move from the flagship, his voice calm and precise over the communication channels, guiding the fleet through the fierce engagement. As the final phase of the coordinated strike unfolded, the humans focused all their remaining firepower on the core systems of the remaining Deathworlder warships. Energy beams and missiles struck simultaneously, overloading shields and causing massive chain reactions within enemy vessels. Explosions tore through the enemy fleet, and one by one the Deathworlder warships began to fall or retreat. The tide of the battle had turned. The human fleet, though exhausted and battered, emerged victorious. The Deathworlder Armada had been repelled, and their warships had suffered catastrophic losses. Daejun addressed his officers, pride evident in his voice. "We have fought bravely and with ingenuity. Today, humans have shown that courage, strategy, and determination can overcome even the most advanced technology. Our victory here will be remembered across the galaxy." Hyrin checked on her pilots and crew, ensuring everyone was safe. Survivors from boarding missions returned to their ships, and engineers continued repairs on damaged vessels. Sumin monitored the fleet systems, ensuring that the warships remained operational. Taeho analyzed the battle data, preparing strategies for possible future encounters. Humanity had not only survived but had proven their strength and resilience against a superior enemy. The fleet regrouped in the quiet of space, recovering from the fierce battle. Crew members shared stories of bravery and daring maneuvers, celebrating their survival and the triumph of their coordinated strike. The human spirit, tested in the crucible of battle, had proven unbreakable. Despite the losses, the fleet had gained valuable experience, knowledge, and confidence. Daejun looked out at the stars, reflecting on the journey and the challenges that lay ahead. The humans had faced a powerful enemy and emerged victorious, But they knew that the galaxy still held unknown threats. They had proven that intelligence, teamwork, and courage were as important as technology and survival. The fleet sailed onward, ready for whatever challenges awaited them, their resolve strengthened by the trials they had faced. As the ships moved through the system, the remains of the Deathworlder warships floated silently among the stars. The humans had achieved a significant victory, but they also knew that the war was not over. Future battles would test them further, and the lessons learned here would be crucial. The fleet continued its journey, determined to protect Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy, knowing that their victories were hard-earned and that courage and unity would guide them through any challenge. The battle had ended, and the human fleet floated quietly in the remains of the Deathworlder system. The stars were calm, and the silence of space contrasted sharply with the chaos that had raged just hours before. Admiral Daejun stood on the bridge of the flagship, surveying the fleet and the wreckage of the enemy warships. Hai-Rin, Tae-ho, and Su-min were by his side, exhausted but proud. The humans had survived, and they had triumphed against a formidable enemy. The fleet was battered. Many ships had been damaged or destroyed, and countless human lives had been lost. Yet, despite the losses, the humans had achieved a victory that would be remembered across the galaxy. Daejun knew that the courage, intelligence, and determination of his crew had made this possible. The humans had faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before, and they had endured. Hai-Rin checked on her squadron, ensuring that all surviving pilots and crew members were accounted for. Some had been injured, and others had barely escaped destruction, but all had fought with bravery and skill. Boarding teams returned from the enemy ships they had infiltrated, bringing valuable data and supplies. Every success had come at a cost, but the lessons learned would strengthen humanity for the battles to come. Su-min monitored the engineering teams as they worked tirelessly to repair warships and restore power to critical systems. His crew had pushed human technology to its limits, improvising solutions and adapting quickly to unexpected challenges. Each repaired ship was a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity, showing that even in the face of overwhelming power, humanity could endure. Tae-ho analyzed the data collected from the battle. He studied enemy strategies, weapon patterns, and shield technologies, preparing simulations for potential future encounters. The humans had learned more in these engagements than they could have from months of research. Every attack, every maneuver, every decision made in the heat of battle had provided invaluable knowledge. The lessons would ensure that humanity could continue to defend itself and adapt to new threats in the galaxy. The Council on Earth communicated with the fleet, congratulating the humans for their bravery and skill. They acknowledged the losses but praised the determination that had led to victory. Messages from allied civilizations began to arrive, offering support, congratulations, and new opportunities for cooperation. Humanity's reputation had grown even stronger, showing the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. Despite the victory, Daejun reminded his officers that caution was still necessary. The Deathworlders had been repelled, but they were not defeated. Their technology was advanced, and their civilization was likely vast and resourceful. Humans had won this battle, but the war for survival in the galaxy was ongoing. Preparation, vigilance, and continued innovation would be essential. As the fleet repaired and regrouped, the humans took time to honor their fallen. Memorials were held aboard ships, and moments of silence were observed. The sacrifices of those who had given their lives ensured that others could continue the fight. Their courage and dedication became a source of inspiration for the surviving crews and for all of humanity. Life aboard the fleet began to return to a routine. Pilots trained, engineers refined their systems, and the command staff developed new strategies for exploration and defense. Daejun held regular briefings with his officers, emphasizing that every encounter with the unknown was a chance to learn and grow. Hai-Rin led exercises in piloting, combat, and teamwork, ensuring that every crew member remained sharp and ready. Su-min continued to improve ship systems, integrating lessons from the battle into practical upgrades. Tae-ho refined simulations and tactics, ensuring that the humans would be ready for any future encounter. the humans also began to explore the remains of the Deathworlder warships. Valuable technology, resources, and data were recovered and analyzed. Scientists studied the alien technology, seeking to understand its function and potential applications. Every discovery increased humanity's knowledge and strengthened their ability to defend themselves. The captured technology was a reminder that intelligence and adaptability were just as important as firepower. Daejun reflected on the journey so far. Humanity had faced countless challenges, expanded across the galaxy, and survived attacks from powerful alien civilizations. The humans' victories had been endless, but the encounter with the Deathworlders had shown that nothing could be taken for granted. Every battle was a test of courage, ingenuity, and resilience. The human spirit had proven itself once again, and the fleet had become stronger because of it. As the fleet moved back toward Earth, the crew looked out at the stars, knowing that they had changed the course of history. Their victories were hard-earned, and the lessons they had learned would guide them in the battles ahead. Daejun, Hairin, Taeho, and Sumin shared a quiet moment, reflecting on the courage of their crews and the determination that had carried them through the fight. Humanity had faced one of the most dangerous forces in the galaxy and had emerged victorious. The journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown threats and opportunities. Humans had proven their strength, but they would need to continue learning, adapting, and fighting to maintain their place among the stars. The fleet sailed onward, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, carrying with them the knowledge, courage, and unity that had ensured their survival. Even in the quiet of space, the humans remained vigilant. Every star, every planet, and every signal was a potential threat or opportunity. The lessons of the Deathworlder battle would guide them in the future, shaping tactics, technology, and strategy. Humanity had won, but they knew that their victories depended on continued courage, adaptability, and the strength of the human spirit. As Earth came into view, the fleet prepared for a triumphant return. Communications were sent ahead to announce their victory and to ensure that support and resources would be ready upon arrival. The humans had faced a challenge that had tested them to their limits, and they had proven themselves. The galaxy would remember the courage, skill, and resilience of the human fleet, and the story of their victory would inspire generations to come. The humans had endured, adapted, and triumphed. Their victories had been endless, but the clash with the Deathworlder Armada had been a true test. Through courage, intelligence, and unity, humanity had faced one of the most formidable forces in the galaxy and had survived. The fleet sailed on, stronger, wiser, and ready for the challenges that the universe still held.